Hi, I'm Jeannie Keltner, and you're here on Soapbox. And tonight we're going to talk about the crisis with the Constitution. And we're going to be talking with two people from our local ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, maybe one of the few groups that stands between us and some real danger as far as anyone who's tracking the news has to feel. My guests tonight are James Updegraff, and wants to be called Jim.
Thank you.
I will happy to call you Jim.
Call him Jim.
Semi-retired banker, and I'm going to get into this. Our stereotype of banker doesn't actually go with the stereotype of civil liberties, so I want to get that out. And then somebody who's been on the show more than one time, yes, and is still mad at me because I got him roped into an acting gig.
My own ego did that, so I can't blame you too much.
Well, then you really have to find somebody to blame.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
This is Jeff Kravitz, who's a professor of constitutional law at the
Lorenzo Patino
School of Law, the People's School of Law.
That's true.
And God knows we need more people who are cognizant of legal rights.
Absolutely. And
responsibilities as well. So I'm really very happy. And let me ask you right off the get-go here, or should I say right off the gitmo.
Okay.
You're in
Jim,
rare form tonight.
We don't really think of bankers as being greatly concerned with people's civil liberties. So, but you are you the president right now of the chapter?
I'm the chair of the board of directors.
Wow, that's even more impressive. So how is it? Tell me what a banker is.
It's a non-paying job.
In other words, only bankers can afford it?
No.
No, of course. I don't think I've ever had anyone on this show, or practically anyone on this show, is getting paid for what they're doing. There are a bunch of people who spend all our free time trying to right the wrongs of the government that we pay so well to do what it's doing. What got you hooked on civil liberties to the point of becoming a board member?
Well, I've always had an interest in the Bill of Rights, the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech. I am a Quaker, and we come out of that background. Women's rights, anti-slavery,
right. The progressive group.
Opposed to the death penalty. We've been opposed to the death penalty for 200 years.
Well, anyone opposed to the death penalty who tracks that has to become some kind of activist around civil rights.
Yes, and of course we had not had a chapter of the ACLU in Sacramento for some years. And a group of us were contacted by the San Francisco Regional Office, which is the governing body over the chapters, and asked us if we could start a chapter. So Jeff and I and about 15 other people got together early this year. We got the chapter up and running in just 3-4 months, where it usually takes anywhere from 6 months to 18 months. But we have a lot of dedicated people on our board, and so we got it up and running, and we're just starting to take a position in the community. We intend to be very proactive.
Oh, boy.
And, you know, there's one thing people have to remember about the ACLU. We only have one client, and that's the Bill of Rights. And our focus is on the Bill of Rights. And our concerns are about when we see what we feel is an affront to the Bill of Rights. And then our chapter will start to move if it occurs in the county.
Well, Jeff, do you think there have been any affronts to the Bill of Rights lately? Is there a Bill of Rights lately?
Well, there's been a 7-year affront to the Bill of Rights. I mean, and obviously there were some affronts before that. And indeed, in my opinion, the actual decision in the case of Bush versus Gore was a perversion of the Equal Protection Clause of the Bill of Rights, which made them stop counting votes. Didn't make any sense at all that would be an equal protection claim. But I think most startling and what a lot of people have focused on, of course, was the illegal spying under FISA, and that President Bush authorized. And then there is the fact that we have now lived through a period in which the United States government has engaged in detention without trial for over 2.5 years in the case of Mr. Padilla, the so-called dirty bomber who was
Right,
held,
who was
an
actually
American citizen.
perhaps driven insane by
Yes.
being hooded and out of contact with
He
reality.
was taken, held as some sort of enemy combatant, even though he was an American citizen, accused of, the accusation was that he was going to commit a crime in the United States. They held him as an enemy combatant. There was court cases about it, and when it was going to come to the Supreme Court, they decided finally to charge him. And interestingly enough, they did not charge him with what they originally accused him of. And so you have that, but the problem is the violation that occurred before his trial, which may make it impossible for him to ever get justice, because, as you say, he may have been, we don't know what happened to him. He may have been interrogated during that period of time. That, of course, brings us again to the torture issue, which incredibly the United States government has apparently been engaging in some forms of torture. This waterboarding issue regarding people that they've captured in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and of course the fact that we still have people in Gitmo, and that's Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. And you know, there's an interesting thing about this. Some of the debate on it makes no sense that people talk about. Let's say that you believed that all of the people held at Guantanamo Bay were members of Al-Qaeda or the Taliban,
right,
and were horrible terrorists. Let's say that the evidence is clear that they are. Okay, fine. Declare them as prisoners of war.
Yeah, let's charge them.
Or charge them with a crime, or declare them as prisoners of war. Do one or the other. They could be held as prisoners of war. There's still a war going on. There'd be no problem. Absolutely no problem. There would be no one in the world would be saying a word about it if they were being held as prisoners of war. That's what's fascinating.
Well, Jim, do you want to comment on why the idea of the enemy combatant was invented, or?
Well, I have a difficult time knowing what goes on in the mind of President Bush and his other people. I assume it was because they wanted to avoid the Geneva Convention.
Because that would apply with a prisoner of war.
A prisoner of war. They were arguing these were not uniform prisoners. In some cases, though, the Taliban was an army of a country that had a government.
And had a uniform of sorts.
Yes.
Yes.
Actually.
I think they were just looking a way around to avoid our court system.
And the enemy combatant status, that the whole way that they're doing this, it's an incredible front on the concepts of justice in American history. And now, you know, what happened, so people know, is that the Supreme Court ruled that President Bush's unilateral creation of the enemy combatant status was unconstitutional. So Congress, the last act of the outgoing Republican Congress, was to pass this law, which the military tribunals law, which they are going to supposedly try these people under. That also is unconstitutional.
Because you can't just invent a certain body to try people out of
In my opinion, it's a post hoc determination. The problem with it
after
is,
the fact.
Yes. Sorry. Sounds too much like a lawyer.
Not everyone speaks Latin, as I do, you know, but
it's post hoc, meaning after the fact.
Fortunatus io.
Yeah. So.